every single day. Without even thinking about it, you make one of the most important decisions of your life. Not once, not twice, but 3, maybe 4, sometimes even 5 times a day. You choose what to eat. It feels ordinary, almost automatic. A quick breakfast before work, lunch between meetings, dinner after a long day. Most meals come and go without us giving them a second thought. But what if those seemingly ordinary choices are quietly shaping your future? Not just your weight, not just your energy, but the way you age. Perhaps you've wondered this yourself. With so much conflicting advice, it's hard to know what to believe. One day we're told to avoid carbohydrates. The next day, fat is the problem. Then sugar, then seed oils, then meat. Then suddenly, meat is healthy again. Every week seems to bring a new miracle diet, a new superfood, a new list of foods we're supposed to fear. It's exhausting. And maybe you've reached the point where you've asked yourself, does anyone actually know what healthy eating looks like anymore? Surprisingly, the answer may have been quietly waiting for us all along. Not inside expensive supplements, not inside trendy wellness programs, and not in the latest diet promoted on social media. Instead, it may be found in a handful of small communities scattered across our planet. Places where reaching the age of 90, or even 100, is no longer considered extraordinary. For decades, researchers have traveled to these remarkable places, studying not only how people live, but also what they place on their plates every single day. What they discovered wasn't a miracle diet. It was something far simpler, and perhaps that's exactly why it has stood the test of time. In today's documentary, we'll explore what centenarians really eat, what modern science says about these eating patterns, and why the foods that support a long life may already be much closer than you think. All of the information presented in this documentary is based on published scientific research and reputable public health sources. You'll find the full list of references in the description below. Why we keep getting it wrong. If someone asked you to imagine the perfect longevity diet, what would you picture? Perhaps colorful smoothie bowls, rare berries from the other side of the world, protein powders, supplements, organic products with labels full of scientific-sounding ingredients. It's understandable. Modern marketing has convinced many of us that living longer requires buying something special, something exclusive, something that wasn't available to previous generations. But when researchers began studying the world's longest living populations, they found almost the exact opposite. Many centenarians grew up during times when food was simple, money was limited, and convenience barely existed. There were no protein shakes, no energy drinks, no vitamin gummies, no expensive meal plans delivered to the front door. Instead, their meals were built from foods that had been growing around them for generations. Simple ingredients, prepared slowly, shared with family, eaten without distraction, and repeated day after day. For decades, perhaps that's the first surprising lesson. The Blue Zone diet isn't famous because it's complicated. It's remarkable because it's ordinary. This is where things get interesting. Although the 5 blue zones are separated by thousands of kilometers, different languages, different religions, and completely different cultures, researchers noticed something extraordinary. The meals looked different, but the patterns were strikingly similar. In Okinawa, Japan, meals often include sweet potatoes, tofu, sea vegetables, and an abundance of colorful plants. On the Mediterranean island of Ikaria, people enjoy vegetables, beans, olive oil, and homemade sourdough bread. In Sardinia, families gather around soups, whole grains, beans, and locally produced cheeses eaten in moderation. Across Nicoya in Costa Rica, corn tortillas, black beans, squash, and tropical fruits have nourished generations. And in Loma Linda, California, many residents follow a predominantly plant-based diet rich in legumes, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. At first glance, these meals seem completely different. Different flavors, different traditions, different recipes. But if you look beyond the surface, a fascinating pattern begins to emerge, because despite all these cultural differences, around 95% of the traditional Blue Zone diet comes from plant foods. Not because someone told them to follow a trend, not because they counted calories, but because that's simply how their communities had eaten for generations. This wasn't a diet. It was a way of life. And perhaps that's one of the biggest lessons of all. The healthiest eating patterns in the world weren't created in laboratories. They evolved naturally, one family meal at a time. The food that appears again and again. If there is one food that quietly connects almost every Blue Zone, it isn't kale, it isn't quinoa, it isn't avocado. In fact, many people completely overlook it because it sits on the lowest shelves of the supermarket. It's inexpensive, it's ordinary, and for many people, it's almost boring. Beans, whether black beans in Costa Rica, lentils around the Mediterranean, soybeans in Okinawa, or fava beans in Sardinia, legumes appear again, and again, and again. Researchers have estimated that people living in Blue Zones often eat about half a cup to 1 cup of beans every single day. Not because they're chasing protein, not because they're following a specific nutrition plan, but because beans have always been part of everyday family meals, rich in fiber, packed with plant protein, loaded with vitamins, minerals, and beneficial compounds. Beans have consistently been associated with healthier aging and lower risks of several chronic diseases in large nutritional studies. And yet, many of us rarely eat them, perhaps because they don't feel exciting. But longevity has never depended on excitement. It has always depended on consistency. The biggest surprise isn't what they eat, it's what they don't. Take a moment and think about the average supermarket. Thousands of brightly colored packages, health claims printed in bold letters, high protein, low fat, sugar-free, energy boost, natural. Walking through those aisles, it's easy to believe we're surrounded by healthy choices. But if you took one of the world's oldest centenarians and placed them in that same supermarket, they might hardly recognize most of the food. Because much of what fills modern shelves simply didn't exist when they developed the eating habits that carried them into their 90s and beyond. Researchers studying Blue Zone populations noticed a simple but powerful pattern. Their diets weren't defined only by what they included. They were also defined by what they naturally left out. Ultra-processed foods were rare, sugary drinks were uncommon, packaged snacks were occasional at most. Fast food wasn't part of everyday life, not because these people possessed extraordinary willpower, but because their environment made healthier choices, the easier choices. Perhaps this is one of the most important lessons for our own lives. We often blame ourselves for lacking discipline. But maybe the real challenge isn't our motivation. Maybe it's the world we've built around us. Imagine sitting at a family table in Okinawa. There are no nutrition apps, no smartwatches tracking every bite, no calorie calculators. No one is weighing their food. No one feels guilty after eating. And yet, generation after generation, people maintained healthy body weights while living some of the longest lives ever recorded. How? Because they followed habits instead of numbers. Meals were eaten slowly. Conversations lasted longer than the food itself. People stopped eating before they felt completely full. Food wasn't rushed. It wasn't eaten while driving or while scrolling endlessly through a phone. It was an event, a daily ritual, a moment to connect. Modern research increasingly supports this idea. Eating more slowly gives the brain time to receive signals of fullness, making overeating less likely. In other words, sometimes how we eat matters just as much as what we eat. One of the biggest myths in nutrition is the belief that one special food can transform our health. Blue Zone research tells a very different story. There isn't one magical ingredient. Not blueberries, not turmeric, not olive oil, not green tea. All of these foods can certainly be part of a healthy diet, but none of them explains exceptional longevity on its own. Instead, researchers consistently found something much more powerful: patterns, small choices, repeated thousands of times. A bowl of beans today, a handful of nuts tomorrow, vegetables at dinner, fruit for dessert, water instead of soda, walking to the local market, cooking at home, sharing meals with people you love. None of these habits seems extraordinary, but together, over years, over decades, they quietly become extraordinary. Longevity isn't built in one meal, it's built in thousands. At this point, you might be wondering, do I need to completely change the way I eat? Fortunately, probably not. The people living in blue zones didn't wake up one morning and decide to start a longevity diet. They simply lived in environments where healthy habits happened naturally. And that's encouraging, because it means you don't have to become perfect overnight. You don't have to throw away everything in your kitchen. You don't need expensive supplements or impossible meal plans. Instead, start with one simple question. What's one meal this week that I can make just a little closer to the way centenarians eat? Maybe it's replacing processed snacks with fruit. Maybe it's cooking beans for dinner. Maybe it's eating with your family instead of in front of a screen. Small changes rarely feel dramatic, but over years, they become the story of your life. So, what can we take away from this? When people search for the secret to a long life, they often expect to find one magical ingredient, one hidden trick, one miracle food. But after decades of research into the world's longest living communities, the answer appears surprisingly simple. Centenarians don't eat perfectly. They eat consistently. They build meals around real food, mostly plants. They enjoy beans, vegetables, whole grains, fruit, and nuts. They cook more often than they unwrap. They eat slowly. They stop before they're overly full. And perhaps most importantly, food isn't something they fight against. It's something they enjoy. Maybe that's the real lesson hidden inside the blue zones. A long life isn't created by chasing perfection. It's created by repeating small, healthy choices until they simply become who you are. And perhaps your next meal could be the first small step toward that future. If today's video changed the way you think about food, you're going to love what comes next. Because one of the most fascinating habits shared across several blue zones has almost nothing to do with what people eat. It's about when they stop eating. In our next episode, the 80% rule, hara hachi, boo. A simple habit that may help explain why some of the world's longest living people naturally avoid overeating without counting a single calorie. You won't want to miss it. Until then, take care of yourself. And remember, a longer life isn't built in one day. It's built one small choice at a time. Subscribe to the Blue Zone Secrets